On the screens, please connect. I'm going to call the spring 2019 meeting of the Board of Governors to order. Convention Wi-Fi, username bridge, password 2019 play to connect to the Wi-Fi. First, I'm going to ask if there are any persons who are attending their first Board of Governors meeting. Please come to one of the microphones, introduce yourself, and tell us your name and what district you're from. Oh, the microphones apparently are fairly far back. I can't even see them. Here they are.
All right, go to it. Hi, my name is Kit, and I'm from District 11, and this is my first meeting. Thank you.
Hi, Ann Brenner, District 17.
Good morning, Francine Maureen from District 7.
Vanjie Smith from District 11.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Posted on the web are the Honolulu, Hawaii minutes. Can we please have a motion to approve those minutes? Unless there's someone who wants to anyone want to make corrections? Otherwise, can I have a motion to approve the Honolulu minutes? So moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we are going to now move directly to Russ Jones for the ACBL President Report.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. First of all, I'd like to welcome you since this is my home. Welcome to Memphis and welcome to the tournament here. I hope everybody's having a good time and enjoying the facilities. Looks like the attendance looks better than what we expected so far, and we'll hope it keeps running. I really don't have anything prepared other than to tell you that your board of directors has been, we came in at this meeting and had 2 days of productive meetings, and Richard will go over the motions that were held. But more importantly, one of the things we did was we had the governance committee come in a day early, and they spent a whole day working on a new governance issue. And I don't know if you see the freestanding posters on the two sides. Basically, this was a start for a proposal for a new governance structure. It's not a done deal. This is simply a starting point, but we are taking action. We are listening. We're actively looking at alternatives, measuring the benefits and disadvantages to each, and we plan to have more information for you when we come to our next meeting, excuse me, in Vegas. Let's see if there's anything else. One thing I was asked to tell from the local people here, don't forget that we have the shuttles out front, the free shuttles going back and forth to the downtown areas, and we also have the cable car running back and forth to all the Memphis areas downtown. So I'll be around after the meeting to answer any questions, but I think meetings short and sweet are better. So if you got any questions, catch me afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joe Jones will now deliver the CEO and Treasurer report.
All right, thank you, Richard. Let's get the slides moving. Let's see. Thank you, Kelly. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Memphis. As a lifelong Memphian, I'm very proud of my hometown. While you're here, I hope you get a chance to enjoy some of our world-famous barbecue and experience some genuine Southern hospitality. In the past, when I've spoken to you, I've focused mainly on financial data, being the CFO. But today, and I'll be giving financial information next, but today I'm speaking to you as the Executive Director, and the focus will be on moving the ACBL forward. But before we look forward, I want to acknowledge where we ended 2018. We've had several financial setbacks in the past year. Legal settlements, the Hawaii NABC, and the failed CRM software project. Since I've become Executive Director, we are making changes to mitigate future potential losses. My team and I are moving forward in a prudent, responsible manner, using good business judgment in all our dealings. New projects are now evaluated by the business owner to ensure they are both needed and the desired results can be achieved. Also, for all new projects, all necessary due diligence will be completed and a full understanding of cost and timelines will be understood before they're approved. Linda here, our in-house counsel, reviews in detail all our contracts and brings to light all the potential risks so we can either mitigate them or accept them with knowledge and understanding. Also, we are interviewing third-party providers to help us with new NABC contracts and to help us renegotiate existing ones where needed. These are just a few of the things we are doing to make sure losses don't reoccur and to ensure financial stability. Nice. Here is a graph of the ACBL's membership over the past 10 years. Obviously, membership has declined, and as a result, so has club and tournament play. Membership is down about 0.5% since 2009 and about 2% from our peak in 2015. It's not good, but it's not a disaster either. Some would have you think the future of the ACBL is in doubt, but I don't believe it, and that's my message to you. Yes, we have challenges, but I sincerely believe ACBL is a viable organization, and we will be here for many years. We have a great product. Bridge is the most challenging and most rewarding card game, both intellectually stimulating and socially fulfilling. And in addition, we have passionate and dedicated employees, hundreds of clubs and hundreds of teachers bringing new players to the game, and thousands of dedicated volunteers, all working to support Bridge. Bridge isn't going anywhere, and neither are we. We will continue to support the game, doing a better job of recognizing and assisting clubs and teachers, continuing to partner with tournament sponsors for providing the highest quality directors, and continuing to host world-class events at NABCs. Here are the 3 areas that are key to our success: membership, digital marketing, and data. In 2019, our work on these areas will directly advance our mission to promote, grow, and sustain the game of bridge. Here are the significant actions the leadership team is currently taking to support the game of bridge. As we look to membership, we begin with recruiting. We are now focused on implementing a recruiter program through which we will pay cash incentives to recruiters for signing up new members and when those members renew. This idea has been out there for a while. We think it has merit, and we're very close to working out the details. We believe this will go a long way to appreciate our club and teacher recruiters. We will also be sending out surveys and engaging in conversations to learn other ways we can effectively support these essential grassroots promoters of the game. To help the recruiters in their efforts, we are exploring ways to attract prospective members. Along with general marketing efforts to raise awareness, we want to offer prospects a limited free membership in return for their contact information. And we also want to promote new memberships by offering discounts. We are actively working on these initiatives, and I will keep you updated as we progress. Here's a success story I'm really excited about. In 2018, we made some changes in our email renewal notification. In the reminder, we provide a link to a form that is pre-populated with the members' data, only requiring them to enter their credit card information, making the process fast and easy. As a result, in 6 months, the number of online renewals increased by 45%. Today, 60% of renewals are processed online. Per online renewal, we save 75 cents from reduced paper, printing, and postage. In just 6 months, we saved $30,000. In addition, on February 12th, we began offering members the option to automatically renew. Most membership organizations offer this to their members. It's a convenience to the member, and we intend for this to increase retention. We have just started promoting the auto-renew option, but just by making it available, 20% of those renewing online are opting to auto-renew, and over time, we expect this percentage to grow. We have saved $50,000 over the last 12 months from these efforts, and we expect that number to go up as more members renew online. In a further effort to support our recruiters and to generally raise awareness, we have partnered with a third-party marketing firm to help us develop a strong digital marketing strategy. Between February and April, a comprehensive research effort is being conducted, including interviews with stakeholders, surveys with both members and non-members, and analysis of membership and web data. Once results are available, we will develop a digital marketing plan, which will identify the best messaging and keywords, the best digital media vendors to use, and metrics to measure effectiveness and return on investment. Data gathering is another key area we are focusing on. This will lead us to developing actionable intelligence, or more simply, information we can use to make decisions. In order for our data-driven marketing efforts to be effective, we need to organize the data we have. We currently have good data on members and tournament play, but we need to capture more data on club play and prospects, and use this data to create effective marketing campaigns. The new Live for Clubs product will capture club play data on everyone who plays, not just those who earn points. The new recruiter and prospective member programs will enable us to directly focus on solid membership leads. Most all member, club, and tournament data, until recently, resided on our legacy AS400 database. We are continuing to move applications and data from the AS400 to a cloud environment, where the data can be easily accessed and used to create solutions. We've already moved most of the club data and are making good progress on the rest. Currently, we are also investigating tools to help us with data analytics. Once we finalize our decision, we will be able to implement very quickly, and we'll be able to effectively query our data and be able to form analytics, helping us to better focus on our efforts to grow, all leading to actionable intelligence, which will drive better, more focused communications and will lead to higher rates of member growth and retention. As we've discussed, we will drive growth by focusing on membership, digital marketing, and converting data into actionable intelligence. This is not a quick fix, but a purpose-driven process that will bring significant and lasting results. I'm truly honored and excited to be part of this amazing organization and to be able to work with those who care so much: employees, clubs, teachers, and most importantly, the volunteers, all working together for Bridge. As long as these stakeholders continue to support their passion, ACBL will be there supporting them for many, many years. So that concludes my Executive Director's report. And now I'll move directly into the financial report. You have the details in your Board of Governor packet, I believe. I have access to it. This is just a quick summary, and we'll be going through the details in just a second. In 2018, we lost $687,000 from operations, and with the non-operating items, we lost over $1.9 million. I'll go through the highlights with you. So these are numbers versus budget. First, we'll start with the revenues. Membership revenue versus budget was down $112,000. The 2018 budget included a provision that we would increase membership by 5,000 members. As you know, membership went down instead. Tournament fees were down about $117,000. We had budgeted for additional reach that we did not hold, and the NABC online revenue was not as high as we expected. TD fees were up just a little bit. The sessions were up a little compared to budget. Our NABC revenue was down a little bit, but that was driven by Honolulu, which revenues were down by $140,000. Club sanction fees down by $92,000. Club tables were down in total 3.7%. And other revenues were up $85,000. That includes the $50,000 from the sponsorship at the Atlanta NABC. So meeting services, that's our NABC expenses, were up $476,000. And that includes the $479,000 we had to pay for attrition charges in Hawaii. Accounting was up $60,000, and most of that was foreign exchange costs. Executive down almost $200,000. We still have a vacant director of finance position, and we had lower legal and travel costs than budgeted. Club and member services was down as well. the temporary membership incentives, we had budgeted a lot of money for that, and those temporary memberships didn't happen. And lower, like as I mentioned before, lower billing cost. So here's the change, the $687,000 dropped primarily by the $770,000 loss in Hawaii. And the non-operating items, we actually had a $300,000 pickup from a reduction in our retiree medical plan liability. Our liability went down, so we had a little bit of revenue on that, and the rest are all decreases in revenue. In December, we had a downturn in the market, and our investments went down. They rebounded in January, but at the end of the year, they were down pretty good. The legal settlements and the failed CRM software project. In 2018, we spent $556,000 on capital expenditures, and at the end of the year, our cash for the year was down about $650,000 with a remaining balance of $1.7 million, and our investments were steady at $7 million. Now we get into the budget, the 2019 budget that the board passed at this meeting. We have increased NABC revenue. We have a strong NABC schedule. And then we also have increased fees going into effect at the summer NABC. We're still projecting a decline in tournament revenue and a decline in club revenue. NABC's costs will be down because we don't anticipate any attrition charges. We've sold all the hotel rooms for Memphis. There's no attrition clause in Las Vegas, and we feel we can easily sell our room block in San Francisco. Field operations expenses will be down we have lower administrative costs, and also we're projecting fewer sessions, so there'll be fewer part-time TD sessions that we have to pay for. IT cost will be going down. We're working on this. I believe we'll be down more than this, but we're reducing our reliance on third-party providers and moving things in-house and handling them ourselves. And we won't have to pay $100,000 like we did last year to support the WBF championships. We have some increased costs, marketing by $82,000. This is going to pay for our digital marketing initiative and also help us make some website upgrades. Club and member services up by $60,000. That's to help fund our club and teacher recruiter plan. And editorials up almost $50,000, and that's bulletin printing cost. We have a relatively modest capital budget for this year, $157,000, and the bulk of that is for, or the largest item there is repairing our roof at headquarters, half the roof, and the rest of the items are IT related. I get a lot of questions about sustainability, financial sustainability of the organization. Here's my estimates for the future. You can dispute them if you like. I forecast a decline, a continuing decline, and then a leveling off. I have not forecasted any fee increases or any significant cost cutting, so I believe we're in good shape for the next 5 years. This shows some small losses, but like I said, this does not include any initiatives to increase revenues or decrease expenses. Oh, sorry. There we go. All right. And that's the end of the presentation. And should I take questions?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Questions? Please.
I know we lost a lot of money in Hawaii, but isn't it a fact we could have saved $300,000 if the ACBL had not paid for the board of directors' visit to Hawaii and all expenses paid? And isn't it a fact that the board of directors would, if they met once a year, we could probably save $500,000? I keep hearing, oh, we need the board of directors because it's very important. But look at us. Look at the state we're in now. Down $1 million or $1.5 million. Every time I come to this meeting, we're losing money here, we're losing money there, basically from incompetence. And I think it's time that instead of looking to save $10,000 here and $1,000 there, you take responsibility and you change the policy. You can meet by Skype. You don't have to meet physically 3 times a year. And I think what you're doing is, what the Board of Directors is doing is unconscionable. You talk about everything, but you don't talk about the savings you could gain if the Board of Directors met once a year.
Thank you. Yes, and Russ mentioned there was a serious discussion and effort on the way. You can see the posters. We have a restructuring the board. We met many nights ahead of this meeting so that we reduced the length of this meeting by a couple of days with cost savings. And you're absolutely correct. If the board didn't go to Hawaii, there would have been a large cost savings. And if the board only met once or twice a year, there would be a large cost savings. There's no doubt. But right, me personally, I'm focused on the operations of the organization. I don't dictate to the board how they meet, or Russ is doing a good job with that.
Yeah, let me just say on that topic, later on in this meeting, we're going to have a discussion about a proposal, and it is only a proposal, to completely restructure how the ACBL is governed. Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Peter Marcus, District 25. You mentioned the 990 odd loss, $1,000 loss for legal. Well, can you tell us what legal settlements or what legal issues those were? And specifically, since I know it occurred in 2019, does that include the amount settled with Bruce Blakely?
Yes, it includes that amount. The settlements did incur after year end, but before our audit was completed, and they're very significant numbers, so we showed those numbers as quickly as possible. We're not going to push them to next year and tell you about them. So those were included in our 2018 numbers. Linda, when she gives her report, will speak to legal matters.
2 questions.
Yes.
Mike Corbin. Rich DiMartino, District 25. I have 2 questions. You can answer them at the same time. First, in the financial report, could you just let us all know what our net worth is as of today? That would be my first question. Everybody's worried this number keeps going down. And the second question, related, is in the last year or 2, I've heard no discussion whatsoever of any plan to replace ACBL score. And anybody who goes to any tournament knows that ACBL score is costing us lots of money because we can't seem to get the results right. And I don't see we don't even seem to talk about it anymore. So if you could just address those 2 problems, that would be great.
I don't have the current number with me, the current financials, but at year end, our net assets were almost $2.3 million. The year end 2017 was about 4.2, and as we discussed, 4.2, it dropped 1.9 million with the loss for the year. ACBL score, I'm not an IT person, so I don't know if I can speak directly. It is still a priority. Right now, I'm focused on membership and recruiting, and we are working on the club piece of it. We are developing a way to calculate master points for clubs outside of score. Our next project, when the club piece is done, will be moved to tournaments. So it will be probably next year when the tournament work begins. It's not something we've forgotten about, but we are still focused on improving our technology in all areas. Yes.
I'm Ken Monzingo from District 22. I want to know why the online income is down and what the future looks like for that.
It was consistent with what we had in the past. The prior management thought that it would be much more, it would go up a lot. It just didn't. It's remained about the same.
Do you have any future plans for online to get this back up to snuff?
I didn't hear you, Ken. What?
Do you have any future updates or plans for online revenue getting up to snuff?
Right. So, well, online club play actually is rebounding. It dropped when BBO increased their fees, but we're letting them do day-long tournaments and things like that. So that revenue is increasing. We're still talking to BBO about the NABC online on ways we can improve that. I think the results for this one was pretty solid. We're continuing to talk to BBO and others about Bridge Online and how we can increase our revenue and increase play.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thanks, Ken.
Good morning. My name is Sandra McPherson, and I'm from District 1. And a few of us have a question about the cost of the monthly bulletins that are coming to our houses instead of replacing them with online publications. And can you just tell us a little bit about the cost and why that hasn't been done?
Right. It's been discussed. There's no plan to do that. I'm not sure what the total cost of the bulletin for the year is for a member. I think it's around $10 to $12 for the printing and the postage and everything. Of course, as the number gets smaller, it's not a variable. There's a large fixed cost for print setup and production of the bulletin. But I will add that to my list of things to discuss with the editorial, how we could perhaps go to a model where you could accept it online and not get a paper version. It is available online, but as you know, you still get the paper version mailed to you. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Linda Dunn with the League Counsel report.
Good morning. I'm here to report to you on the status of ACBL's litigations. I have two to report out to you. The first is, as I've been reporting for the last couple of years, Blakely versus ACBL. The good news is that the insurance company settled with Mr. Blakely in March of this year. Just a little background. In 2016, Mr. Blakely, a former director of the ACBL who resigned from the board, sued us in California State Court. He had in total 11 causes of action, and he was seeking damages, legal fees, and a declaration that our CDR was unfair and that we had unfairly brought him up on charges inside the board of directors. To not bore you, because I've reported out every twist and turn in this litigation, but suffice to say, there was a lot of motion practice with us trying to get him to arbitrate. We lost that. We appealed. He filed a couple of motions, including one for attorney's fees. He did not get that, and he appealed. So looking at this case over the course of the next couple of years, as always, you have to consider your probability of winning and what it's going to cost you in terms of pursuing this litigation. And we had a change in person overseeing this case at our insurance provider. In their view, looking over the course of the next several years and pursuing this litigation, that Mr. Blakely, we had tried one mediation before that was unsuccessful. We were wildly apart in terms of the numbers. So looking across the next 2 to 3 years of pursuing this litigation, which was very costly, they decided that it was in their best interest to settle with Mr. Blakely and cut their losses. And because they're our insurance company and we want to cooperate with them, we acquiesced in that, and we entered into a settlement discussion with Mr. Blakely, and indeed we did settle with him, and that lawsuit is now over. Now, one of the things that's related in that lawsuit, that he can talk to you about what happened. We did not make it confidential, so he's probably going to talk to people about what he thinks happened. But one of the conditions of that lawsuit settling was that Mr. Blakely is required to take a sexual harassment class that we approve of. And that's because one of the underlying issues in this lawsuit was whether or not Mr. Blakely sexually harassed one of our ACBL employees and continued to do so. This person continues to assert that Mr. Blakely did this. It's alleged because, again, we did not go to court. It has not been proven. So he allegedly sexually harassed our employee. She says that he did, and to the best of our information and belief, we believe her, okay? So we as a company are on notice that this happened and that it might possibly happen again. So if it does happen again, we are required to put things in place to mitigate that. So that's why we put the condition on Mr. Blakely's settlement and ending his probation, which was set to end in 2024 and is instead going to end 12/31/2019. One of the conditions for that was that he had to take this course to make sure that we at least had something to offer to the courts if indeed it happens again in the future. So that's where we are. The insurance company paid out Mr. Blakely. We made a contribution toward that settlement, and it is now over. Okay. Our second matter is Peter Marcus versus the ACBL. This case began in 2017 when Mr. Marcus, a tournament director and actually a member of your body, sued the ACBL on behalf of himself and other tournament directors similarly situated, saying that we do not pay our tournament directors correctly under FLSA guidelines. He is joined by 2 other tournament directors, and they asked to be the people to represent the tournament directors in this lawsuit. The court agreed. It's a low bar. The court agreed that they could represent the other tournament directors, and they also allowed the suit to go forward. Once that happens, we have to send a notice to all of the other possible tournament directors to ask them, do you want to join this lawsuit? And you give them 60 or so days to make that decision. It's totally their decision to make. That period ended March 15th, and we have not been notified of exactly how many tournament directors did opt in, but we know that the total class was about possibly 45 or 47 people. Now, there was a glitch in the mailing. Mr. Marcus's and his attorneys assert that 4 or 5 tournament directors never received the first mailing, which is mailed from an independent third party. They say that 4 people never got it. And in addition, there were some tournament directors who were part-time and who could not have been in the suit anyway, who were subsequently promoted to full-time. And they argued that the minute these people were promoted to full-time, they were possibly a member of the class. So that was about 7 people in total. They went to the court and they said, hey, we need to extend the time that these 7 people can respond. And the court said, we agree with that. So they gave them another 30 days until April 15th for these 7 people to get this notice to decide whether or not they would like to join the lawsuit. So right now, this is where we are in the Marcus case. They are the class representatives, these 3 tournament directors, and we're waiting on the other 7 people to decide to opt in. And on April 15th, we will know the total number of people who might possibly be suing us. We believe that we're paying tournament directors correctly, okay? We have a pot of money from the insurance companies. And let me just say for a minute, FLSA insurance is extremely hard to get. We were fortunate to get $150,000 worth of insurance for this matter. And we are using that money to defend the lawsuit. But it will run out, okay? And we will possibly be exposed at that time to paying for the litigation costs ourselves, which may run $100,000 to $200,000 to pursue this case to the end. We think it's important to do that because we will finally get an answer from the courts as to whether or not we're paying our tournament directors correctly. Okay? That's my litigation report. And any questions? I see Mr. Marcus coming to the mic, and so just say he's represented by counsel, so he cannot ask me any questions related to the lawsuit itself.
And if he's allowed to say that he's smart enough to know that without being told it. With the one exception to let you know that there were not 7 directors who were included in the extension, there were 6. My question has to do with an element of Bruce's lawsuit, specifically the issue of arbitration requirement. I know, as you pointed out, that the ACBL tried to enforce that based on something from the board from the 80s you've reported before, and lost in both district and appellate court. And that since then, in fact, at the Atlanta NABC, you reported that since you had come on, I'm now quoting, you said, "I have been blasting that everywhere, so that there is no excuse that an employee or vendor or person in a contract with us doesn't know that they are supposed to go into arbitration." And someone, I believe it was Alan Falk, mentioned that in fact at the NABCs in Atlanta, he had seen no signage, no indication of an arbitration requirement. And you said that you had made sure that it was published in at least 2 daily bulletins and at least twice a year in the monthly bulletin. And I at that point asked you a question about what the problem would be with in fact having signage at the nationals, at the selling stations about requiring arbitration. And you responded, and again I now quote, that this was not a problem. I will consider whether we will do this. We are now 2 nationals and 8 months later. There is no such signage. It cost maybe a couple of $100 to make 10 or 15 signs to this effect. You have said that a major issue with this is that courts in general do not like to enforce these kind of clauses and look for reasons not to. And yet here we are 8 months later, and I don't know what you did to look into it, but whatever you did to look into it, they're not there. And I certainly know that if this ever came up again, I would think a smart attorney would just look at our meeting minutes and say, gee, there was 8 months and they couldn't even bother to make some signs. Clearly they weren't very serious about telling people about it. So my question is, what has happened in the last 8 months that you considered about having these signs? And was there a reason why it was either not done or you decided it was unnecessary?
I believe that the signage is unnecessary. We talk about binding arbitration in all of these meetings, so everyone who attends these meetings and listens to it by webcast knows about binding arbitration. It is indeed in every NABC's bulletin at least twice. It is in every monthly bulletin at least 3 times a year. And it's in our bylaws, and our bylaws were recently reviewed and put up on the website for several months. And so presumably the members read the bylaws when they were being changed, so they know it from that. And more importantly, I want everybody, when you buy your entry today, to look at it, okay? Because every single entry for every single game that you buy has the arbitration notice on it. Okay, so we give this notice every time. So I think that there's no one can claim, as Mr. Blakely did then, that they didn't know, because since that time, it has been talked about far and wide that there is, oh, and in addition, whenever you get your membership renewal, it is now prominently presented on the front that there's a binding arbitration requirement, and it's on the back. And if you call in and renew with our club and membership department, they read it to you. So it's out there, and it is widely publicized. There's a lot of signage around. I didn't think we needed another one. Okay, all right.
And one more question. We need to move on to get our business done.
If I could just ask quickly, just of the people here, obviously these are in general people who are more interested in bridge organization than the average player. How many here have read the bylaws? I'm very impressed, thank you.
I'm David Rodney from District 6. On the lawsuit that's going forward, could you tell us what the potential exposure is if you went forward with it and the ACBL lost?
Okay, there's the legal fees, which again, once we run through the pot of money from the insurance company, we estimate that the cost will be from $100,000 to $200,000 to complete that lawsuit. As far as damages, we don't think that we will lose on the merits. Okay, that's our determination today. But if we're wrong and we lose on the merits, there are two issues. Number one, do you just lose, or do you lose because you willfully disobeyed the law? If we just lose, it's the overtime that those tournament directors would have earned over the course of the period of the litigation. And it's a look-back period of 2 years. And we think that liability is somewhat less than $75,000 to $100,000, okay? But if we are presumed to have willfully disobeyed the law, you get into punitive damages, which would be 2 times that, so $150,000 to $250,000. But we don't think that we would, even if we're found liable, which we don't think we will be, it will not be willful because we've worked with our counsel throughout this entire period, and we've always gone to them with respect to the decisions that we were making. So we are allowed to rely on a reputable third party. So our reliance on our counsel's advice, we think, will cause us to not be seen as having willfully disobeyed the law. Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But again, first of all, we think we'll win on the merits and that it's worthwhile getting this decision so that we're not subject to this lawsuit on a recurring basis.
Thank you for all of the reports. I'm going to do the chairman's report now and go through the motions that were considered at the Board of Directors meeting. I'd like you to turn to page 3. Kelly, if you can flip to page 3, that's the first item that I'm going to cover. There was a motion made at the Board of Governors meeting in Hawaii asking that child care be provided at every NABC. That motion was brought up at the floor, so I did not have a chance to review it in advance, or we would have discovered that the codification already provides for that. So for that reason, the Board of Directors did not adopt a motion that's already there in the codification. However, it did raise the child care issue, and I'm going to come to what actually happened. I don't want to make Kelly skip around to multiple pages. We'll come to that on page 5. So the board did not do what was already done. Next motion, 190-151, concerns the goodwill reception. There was a discussion about reducing the number of goodwill meetings to 1 per year. That did not change. We will still have 3. There will now be a cash bar, no more free drinks at the Goodwill Committee. Other than that, the Goodwill Committee meetings themselves will remain as is. The Goodwill Chair in 190-152 had formerly received free plays for the entire tournament, and that has been changed to 2 days of free plays and no longer receiving airfare. Okay, now on page 5, 190-153, there is an issue. We all know about the issue with child care in Honolulu. There is an upcoming issue with providing child care at the NABC in Las Vegas, and the problem is that we are in a casino that doesn't want children in the casino, and therefore, or in the building. Therefore, the NABC simply cannot provide child care in Las Vegas because the hotel will not allow it. And it's sort of obviously a surprise to me. We've been in casinos many times before and haven't run into this, but that's what they are saying. So a motion was adopted that the NABC, the ACBL will provide child care when it's reasonably practicable. Moving on to 190-120, the budget, you've already seen Joe's review of that. The next item, 190-121 and 22, were motions from the Board of Governors to provide specific incentives for recruiting new prospective members and recognizing member recruiters. These motions were not passed by the Board of Directors. However, the Board of Directors said these are very good suggestions. The ACBL is working on a new marketing plan, and these two specific ideas will be considered as part of the marketing plan. I'm going to skip now to bottom of page 7, 191-10. The Master Point awards for 4-session regional events will be increased, assuming that this is approved again at another reading in the summer. It requires 2 readings, unfortunately, to do this, even though there is overwhelming sentiment it should be done. Same thing on a change to the Flight C Canadian National Team Championship. Another reading will be required. Okay, 190-113, the Jane Johnson Club Appreciation Games. The current regulations were that the club may run 1 pair game and 1 team game in October. This has been liberalized, so you can run 2 pair games instead of 1 pair game and 1 team game. What has not been changed, the team game allowed the clubs to award gold points if you run some small number of gold points. If you run 2 pair games, you don't get gold points for the second pair game. There was a motion to basically allow for 100% of master points to be awarded in regionals for 18 board sessions. That failed pretty overwhelmingly. You still have to have a minimum of 24 board sessions for full master points. 190-102, collusive cheaters. This is a very important motion. This came from the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors basically asked that all collusive cheaters be banned permanently once they were convicted with no possibility of readmission. The board, because that would not have passed quite as drafted, I allowed a friendly amendment to this resolution, and it now passed with a substantial majority. So if you are convicted of collusive, premeditated cheating in a NABC Plus event or an equivalent event, then you cannot get back in if you have such a conviction. This is prospective because we can't apply the CDR, changes in the CDR to existing cases. So this cannot apply to any existing convictions, but let's hope we don't have future collusive cheaters, but if we do and they're convicted, this rule will apply to them. We had a change in the CDR also related to this, so that now any attempt, so this will apply to existing convicted collusive cheaters or other cheaters. If they try to come back in, the case must at least be looked at by the Anti-Cheating Commission and the Ethical Oversight Commission, but the ACBL Appeals and Charges Committee will still have final say. and there is a minimum of 5 years probation for anyone readmitted under those circumstances. I am going to skip to page, I'm sorry, 190-104 on page 10. This allows, in certain circumstances, original jurisdiction for the ACBL appeals and charges on some types of cases. 190, 105, and 06 were two motions which were deferred until the Las Vegas meeting. These involve this, sorry, let me get my act together on what these were. But this basically, these were motions to allow for the ACBL to strip titles of collusive cheaters and move people up. Those were deferred to Las Vegas pending further consideration of exactly how to do this. But 190-107 does now allow for voluntary relinquishment of titles, so that in many cases, I guess, teammates of people who were convicted of cheating may decide to vacate their titles because they don't want to have a tainted title. I am going to now skip over, I guess that I'm going to skip the remainder of the report because they're relatively routine matters. And I'm going to ask if there are any questions on this, and then I'm going to move on to a very important discussion item. And motions for reconsideration will take a little later. So this is just questions about my report. Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Castle from District 14. It's really disappointing to see the passage regarding the Jane Johnson games. I think this speaks directly to the league's inability to get scoring software that makes it easy for clubs to run team games in their clubs, you know, where they can't run a Swiss. And the Club Appreciation Team Game is one of the only opportunities all year for club players to earn gold, albeit fractionally, in their home club. And to simply throw up your hands and allow clubs to run 2 Club Appreciation pair games to give out extra master points seems really misguided to me. We should be doing something as quickly as possible so that we don't lose in-play in the league. And we're having a lot of trouble in District 14 running team games. I don't know about the rest of the league, but we should be encouraging in-play in the clubs. And if clubs can't easily set up a small table team game, we're going to lose that. We value the Vanderbilt, the Spin Gold, Major. Our biggest heroes are winners of national and international team games, and the league isn't doing hardly anything to promote in-play.
Well, this was a liberalization of the policy to allow clubs more flexibility. That's what happened here. They can still run the Club Appreciation Team Game. Yeah, okay. Steve.
Yes, Steve Mose, District 11. I have a question, Richard, but it may be better aimed toward Linda Dunn. While we all appreciate the fact that we want to eliminate collusive cheaters from our midst, I'm concerned that the current set of motions that we have in front of us that you're reporting on fails to define collusive cheating. And absent that definition, I think we're exposing ourselves to substantial litigation. So I would hope that there is a separate effort underway that by Las Vegas, we will have an actionable, specific definition of what collusive cheating is. Thank you.
Rich Carl from District 20. I actually agree strongly with both of the previous two speakers with regard to collusive cheating. I think those regulations are very, very difficult to understand and should be simplified. I don't know if the league counsel has looked at them, but they should be looked at to make sure there's no possible loophole. But I really think Mike Hassel nailed it. We should not go away from the team game. I think that's just a horrible, horrible decision. I can't believe that it was unanimous. We need the team game in the Club Appreciation Series.
Well, okay, on that matter, I mean, we're going to have motions for reconsideration. If one of you wishes to make a motion for reconsideration of that item, please do so. That'll come up soon.
With respect to a definition of collusive cheating, I would caution you on too much specificity. That has hamstrung us in the past. Okay, you think you've drafted something, and there is no end to what people will get up to that will come up and be a situation that's not covered by your regulation, and now you can't do it because you've drafted it too specifically. The people who write the charges to bring someone before a disciplinary committee know how to recognize collusive cheating and how to charge it. So it leaves it to the discretion of the person bringing the people up on charges to make the case that what they did meets the commonplace definition that anyone would understand to be collusive cheating. And that would be viable. And again, you have a disciplinary committee that's made up of very smart, very talented people, and on the EOC and the ACBL disciplinary committee level, and this would go to the EOC, they know what collusive cheating is if it's charged to them. So they can make a really good reasoned decision about whether or not what the charging party says is collusive cheating is in fact collusive cheating. So in my opinion, I think leaving it broad the way we have it is the best way to go. But if the board decides to make it more specific, I just caution you that if you make it too specific, then something happens that's outside of that, you can't charge them with collusive cheating. Okay? Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. Now, okay. All right, I'm going to now turn to, and you have seen charts around the room. I want to thank 4 members of the Board of Governors who assisted me, along with 3 members of the Board of Directors, in studying and starting to put forth a proposal for reorganization of how we govern ourselves. Kevin Wilson, Barbara Heller, Stu Goodgold, who isn't here, and who am I forgetting? I'm sorry, Steve Mose. If you can all stand up and be recognized. Everyone has put in really, really hard work and a lot of hours on this committee, and along with Margot Hennings, Sharon Anderson, and A.J. Stefani from the Board of Directors. Everybody, we've had multiple conference calls and put in a lot of time to try to develop a proposal on how the league should be governed. So basically, the purpose is to try to improve how the Board of Directors and the Board of Governors operate, most specifically with the Board of Directors. And the proposal in broad form is to have 2 different governing bodies of the ACBL. One would be an executive board, which under our proposal would be composed of 9 members, not elected in a geographical fashion, chosen by you would get a nominating committee who would name people for these positions. The other body, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, would probably be the electors. So you would have a specific set of skill sets, and this executive board would handle matters that are traditionally handled by a board of directors, such as financial matters, budget, overview of the chief operating officer, and that type of thing. A second body would be what we've called in our proposal a Senate. There would be 50 members, 2 elected from each district. That would handle what in other charitable organizations are the program of the charity. We're not a charity, but a nonprofit organization. In our case, our program is Bridge. That would handle all bridge matters. Now, we all recognize that a 50-member board is even less efficient than a 25-member board. It would replace the Board of Governors, would meet once per year, and would name committees who would have very substantial authority to make bridge decisions. So, for example, we already have a Conventions and Competitions Committee. That would be one of the committees. The Senate would nominate the members of that committee. That committee could make decisions about what events are held at the NABC, conditions of contest, convention cards, etc. The executive board could overrule their decisions by a supermajority, but that committee would be making those decisions. There are many, many details to work out. We have to be mindful of New York law. We cannot, for example, cut short the term of a director who's a member of a board of directors in a New York corporation. That New York law simply doesn't allow that. So we can't go cold turkey from our current system directly to a new system. We'd have to have a transition period. You see the 2 charts around the room which broadly outline this. Also attached on the website are many of the details that we have thought about. This is not in final form. We would welcome input from any members of the Board of Governors on things we may have missed or things you don't think we're doing right. We want to hear from you. The idea is we're going to have at the Las Vegas board meeting, there will be a half-day plan devoted to analyzing this or some kind of alternate proposal. We are hoping that the Board of Governors thinks that it's a good idea that we're looking at this. If the Board of Governors thinks everything is hunky-dory now and we shouldn't be proceeding with reorganization, we want to hear that. We don't need to put in a lot of time for something that'll never happen. But I don't think that's what the Board of Governors feels. So if there are any specific comments now, please let us know. You can email me with any specific comments. In about a month, an independent survey firm, as far as we know it'll be independent, is going to send every member of the Board of Governors, also every member of the Board of Directors, a questionnaire asking you various questions about organization of the ACBL, how it, maybe about this specific proposal or about alternate proposals. Please fill it out. We need to hear from everybody. You all are here because you have good ideas. Please let us know what they are.
Carol
Yes.
Weinstein, I'm from District 25. Please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding of this body is that we are a check and balance to the Board of Directors. So by eliminating the Board of Governors, what process do we have to have a check and balance?
We recognize that is one thing that's not in the proposal, and we need that. We will have something added to the proposal to deal with that. You're absolutely right, Carol.
Richard, this is Steve Mose. I want to thank you for the overview you just gave, and as a member of the task force, I want to thank the task force for what was fairly intense work and a fairly well-founded collegial interaction. I think that was great. I did want to point out that there needs to be a little better description of the nominating body. The notion is this body is a disinterested body of experts who can help rank candidates. We might have 30 candidates for a board of directors member who is a specialist in marketing strategy. Of those 30 candidates, we need to be able to rank them so that the top 4 or 5 get to be chosen among by whoever does the elections. And the question becomes, who should do the elections? Should it be the Senate of 50, which would then be having people of importance to this organization elected by fewer voters than we currently do today? Should it be the process that we currently do today, where only unit board members get to vote? Or should we take advantage of electronics and open it up to the entire membership and allow for electronic voting for each of these posts? The idea would be that we would have the board of directors define what the skill sets are that they need, and the nominating committee would then screen for each of those skills the best candidates. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Steve. That is an accurate description of the nominating committee, or whatever we end up calling it as part of the proposal. And again, this is in draft, and very much an early draft, so a lot can and probably will change.
Michael Heyman, District 16. I just want to repeat the thank you, and half the questions that I want to ask, he kind of answered. Is the Senate going to do an approval of each of the candidates a la U.S. Senate kind of a thing? Is that the idea behind that?
The idea right now, if the Senate is the voting body, is that we may have 9 members, so 3-year terms on each cycle. So the Senate may be given a list of 6, 9, 12 candidates for 3 positions, and then they will vote, for the top 3. They will vote for 3 candidates, and the top 3 vote getters will earn the positions. Again, we have a lot of details to work out, and if you have ideas on how that should be done, please email us.
One more little thing, the half a day in Vegas, what are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about this or other restructuring proposals as part of the Board of Directors meeting.
So we're going to have to assume that if we want to talk about it, that's going to be a day we're not going to play? Or
No. This will be the Board of Directors at its meeting before the tournament.
In the 2 hours that you call that half a day. Okay, that's good.
Well, no, not here. I'm not talking about the Board of Governors. I'm talking about the Board of Directors will be devoting more time to this.
Just 2 seconds. I'm Kevin Wilson. I was part of the task force as well. What we want is to have all bridge-related decisions made by the Senate, essentially a reimagined Board of Governors, handle all bridge committees and all bridge decisions by the people that know bridge best, this body or people like this body, and then leave an executive board to handle the financial and the future vision of the organization and to make sure that they can pay for what our visions are. So we wanted to have a separate bridge body that handles all bridge decisions, and then an executive board which handles the organization, the corporation decisions, just to try to make it clear. And there's on various places, if you have ideas, we'd love to hear your ideas. I mean, we're supposed to be the grassroots of the organization, so by all means, we know our vision isn't perfect, but we're trying, and we don't want, what we want to do is have this group and this body come up with a vision for the future rather than perhaps an outsider who is trying to force a decision on us without having our ideas. So if we come up with our own ideas, we won't have somebody from the outside forcing something on us. Thanks.
Joey Silver from Montreal. I'd just like to thank the committee for all its hard work. I think we owe them some applause. I might not agree with all the details, but I certainly like the direction. And it does show what one can do without meeting in person. And maybe the board of directors will follow suit. Here we have a complicated issue, and they did not meet in person. They met electronically or whatever they are these days. And why can't the board of directors do the same and save us all $500,000 a year? I hope somebody on the board of governors makes a motion to that in that direction.
Okay, one more here, and then we need to move on to other business.
Doug Couchman, District 21. Can you or some member of the committee tell me what, if any, discussion there has been regarding, I'm sure you must have thought about it, redoing the districts better to reflect the distribution of members?
There has been discussion about that. There are so many issues involved with districts having their own money, their own competitions, their own regionals, etc., that the board of, the task force decided trying to redistrict was not going to be part of this. There are members of the task force who think the representation in the Senate should not necessarily be 2 per district. In other words, we might start with 1 per district and have small districts have only 1 and larger districts have more than 1. But I mean, no final decision on that. Well, no final decision on anything has been made, but that was certainly discussed as a possibility. Okay, well, again, please submit your ideas. We don't want this to be just 8 or 9 people making these decisions. You all have good ideas. Please tell us about them. I'm going to move on to motions for reconsideration. Are there any motions for reconsideration of any actions taken by the Board of Directors? Mike, you don't want to have a motion for reconsideration on the Jane Johnson Club game? I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth. But this is the time to do it if you want to do it.
I've been active on the now disbanded GNT-NAP Coordinators Forum, and it's been long my feeling that until ACBL score is either radically upgraded or replaced, there's really no point in trying to get clubs to run team games. They're just too difficult to set up. So I just urge the league to get about having a scoring program that anybody can start a game and code it, in just a relatively few number of keystrokes. Right now, running team games in clubs is difficult. So I don't see the point in trying to ask for reconsideration.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other motions for reconsideration of any action taken by the Board of Directors?
Doug Couchman, District 21. I move that the board reconsider its decision to limit the permanent exclusion, prospectively, of collusive, premeditative cheating to NABC plus events.
Okay, so that motion for reconsideration, the concept of that is that there would no longer be any permanent ban, if that's your motion. If you're asking that the motion, it's going to come under new business if you're asking that it be expanded to all events. That would be a different part of the meeting.
I withdraw my motion then.
Okay.
The ACBL board last summer in Atlanta slightly voted against adding a second Flight B and C team to the GNTs. Then in Honolulu, the board ended up approving a second team. I firmly believe that the ACBL is not a one-size-fits-all organization. The ACBL abandoned its support for the GNTs Once flighting began in the late 80s, they couldn't afford airfare and hotel nights for a bunch of flights. They gave districts options to run the GNTs.
Is this a motion for reconsideration, or is it new business?
This is a motion for reconsideration. They added what I would call the Castle Amendment this spring to not allow District 14 to recognize lower echelon Flight B teams who play well enough to get into the knockout phase, and instead voted that only first place in split sites or first and second place in a single site would be eligible. In District 14, we are not getting Gold Rush graduates and lower echelon players to play in our team events. The GNTs are a grassroots event that are supposed to start in the clubs. Very few clubs run club qualifying events. That's one reason why the league doesn't have revenues to support GNT play. I first asked that the ACBL recognize some measure of equivalence and offer free plays to GNT entrants at the Summer Nationals. I think it's very misguided that the ACBL won't let District 14 recognize a team with 800 master points apiece trying to compete against teams with 2,200 master point teams that play well enough to reach the knockouts. That team deserves a chance to come to the NABC Summer National. And I would ask that the Board of Directors re-examine their decision to only allow first and second place teams the right to attend the Summer Nationals.
Do we have a second to this motion? We do have a second, okay. So basically what Mike is asking, I don't have the number right at hand and it isn't one of the items that I covered, but basically the league has said when you have your district qualifies to send 2 teams in a flight, if you're in one location, then it's the first and second place team. If you're in 2 locations, it's the first place team from each site. This motion eliminated the ability of sort of stratifying within a bracket so that players with a lower number of average master points could displace the second place team in a bracket. So that's the purpose. That was the purpose of what the Board of Directors did. Mike is asking that that be reconsidered. Do we have anybody who wants to speak for or against this motion for reconsideration?
You know, when you have a large district, let's say 16, 6, 7, 9, you've got lots of teams competing in Flight B. It makes perfect sense that the first and second place team get to go. In small districts like ours with less than 4,000 members, when we see in our regionals that Gold Rush graduates and lower B teams aren't playing anymore in team events, the special events, the grassroots events that are supposed to be for all of us, that gets zero support from the league when $500,000 a year goes to the international fund, why can't small districts who are trying to fulfill the mission to promote bridge and the bridge-related interests of its members allow us to get the players who are new life masters playing in this grassroots event when they know that head-to-head against teams with 2,400 points, they're not going to have a chance. They're not playing. So it's not a one-size-all situation, and small districts should have a district option. The ACBL gives districts their option, doesn't dictate to us what is fair in our district.
Okay, thank you. So I've found it's 191-12. That's the motion for that we're requesting reconsideration. It's on page 8. Okay. I'm going to ask all those in favor of the motion for reconsideration, please raise your green paddles and hold them up until we finish counting. Hold them up higher. Okay, something like that. All opposed to the motion for reconsideration? Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, motion fails. Okay. Any other motions for reconsideration? If not, Peter, you have 2 motions that you made. If you want to bring those up, and then we'll go on to other new business.
I'll do the easier of the 2. I was having an online discussion with a player who it turned out was from Belgium. And we were talking about a non-LM tournament we're having in New England. And she talked about how impossible it was for ACBL members not in the ACBL geography to become Life Masters, because they had just no opportunities for pigmented points. And given the advancement in online bridge opportunities, my motion was that the ACBL schedule, in conjunction with some NABC, a 5-day silver point tournament and a 5-day gold and red point tournament online, limited to players whose residence is outside the US, Canada, Mexico, and Bermuda. So that players who are paying membership fees and are members in good standing in Europe, South America, Asia, Africa, whatever, have an opportunity to get pigmented points without having to fly to the US.
Okay, is there anyone who wishes to second Peter's motion? Thank you, Jay Apfelbaum. Okay. Anybody want to speak for the motion? Anyone want to speak against the motion? All right, if you're in favor of Peter's motion, okay, Steve, go ahead.
Hi, Steve Gaynor, District 14. Mike, I just have a question. How many people does this apply to in general?
Pardon? Okay, so the answer is we do not know. I would imagine not very many people, but certainly some people. Stan, go to the mic. Yeah.
Stan Subek from District 13. I think we do know the ACBL has District 99, which is a district where non-resident members are allocated. I just can't remember the number of people that are in District 99.
Okay.
My name is Jeremy Lewis, and I'm the bookseller that travels to most of these regionals and nationals throughout the years for the last 12 years. And I've heard all of you talk today about how you need more improvement on membership. And yet, here Peter Marcus is trying to tell you that these people that are in other countries, this is huge right now because they are going to tell their friends, and they are going to tell lots of other people that they are now getting, if this were to pass, that they can now talk to those people, and before you know it, maybe we'll have a whole Europe division of the ACBL that is pretty big and is paying a lot of money to this organization that you guys are all trying to improve.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there's no more discussion, if everybody in favor of this motion, please raise your green. Okay, Anne, very quickly.
Okay, very quickly. We were just in Australia, and one of our friends, who's a New Zealand person, came over and said hello to us, and she was expressing her problems with her difficulty of becoming a life master, even though she comes to lots of regionals and a few sectionals in Colorado and other parts of the United States. She really has trouble getting black points, and I don't think this motion particularly addresses the black points. That's the hardest for them to get.
Okay, well, we're dealing with the motion on the floor unless Peter wants to take a friendly amendment, and we really need to move on. So if we're just piling on with favorable views, we don't need to do that.
About this. May I speak? This is my first board meeting. Okay. If my business had lost 1.9 million and 418% of its income, or of the operating income, I would be spending so much time on that. And yet we seem to be spending time on how to get points, which is why I think the restructuring of the Board of Governors was an excellent idea, because it seems to be spending more time on how we're going to get a little more points instead of why did we lose $1.9 million. This is a way to get some income. I think this online idea is great. I don't play online, I don't like it, but my goodness, if they can't travel here, let them spend their money online. We have to make up some money. They've lost 1.9 million, and we didn't spend any time talking about that but a few minutes, but we're talking about how to get points in a little game. It's just, I would never run my business this way, but this is nonprofit, so it's other people's money. Nobody seems to care. That's what I have to say.
Okay, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your green paddles. The motion is to have, at NABCs, to have silver point games and I think gold point games online for 5 days. Let's have all opposed. Motion carries. What's the issue, Linda? I'm sorry. Not very. Only 2 or 3 people. It's not. It's on there. It's on the website. It's an existing pre-submitted motion. I'll talk to Peter. Okay. Peter, can we move on to your next motion? Linda has requested you add a discussion item, discussion of the motion to your submission. If you will do that, please, since it has passed.
I don't understand, but yes, sure. Whatever she suggested is fine.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
The other has to do with something called tournament assistance. At most ACBL tournaments, ACBL employed directors are required to run and operate, direct the tournaments. This is a significant income source for the ACBL. There is a provision to allow some non-employees to work at these tournaments, in theory, in limited circumstances. They're local and they can get there cheaply. You need someone for Monday and Tuesday morning only, and you don't want to bring in an director from far away, whatever. But some places have been using this loophole to use many, many non-ACBL employees, including ones staying in hotel rooms at great expense, rather than using ACBL employees. I personally worked a regional in New York City 2 years ago, where there were 9 directing resources. 5 were employed by the ACBL, 4 were not. So the motion, recognizing that every one of these is fees the ACBL is not receiving, when an ACBL director could have been employed instead of this TA. So the motion is that specifically TAs may not be used instead of an ACBL employee if that TA requires a hotel room, that is, they're not local to the tournament, or that however far away they are, there are ACBL employees who are closer, so that you could only use them in limited sources when they were local, cheap, and save money rather than hiring an ACBL employee. But if they're not saving money, then you cannot, now you can always hire them locally, but you still have to have the same number of ACBL directors. You want to hire 50 people to help out at your tournament? Great for you. But you cannot replace ACBL employed directors with TAs when those TAs cost as much as the ACBL employed director would. TA is a tournament assistant. It is an individual who has either passed an ACBL test or is a former tournament director no longer employed by the league. They are people who are in theory competent to direct the tournaments but are not employed by nor the responsibility of the ACBL.
Okay, do we have a second to Peter's motion? Seconded by multiple persons. Thank you. Those who wish to speak in favor of the motion or against the motion?
Kevin Wilson, District 7. I think this is an absolutely horrible idea. What you're doing is you're going to raise costs for the tournaments. Furthermore, this is going to take away opportunities for people, local directors, who might get an opportunity to gain some very valuable experience to become better directors. And I think this is a horrible idea, and I strongly encourage you to vote against it.
Jay Apfelbaum, District 4. I think it's a case of money, and I agree that tournament directors, when they're working, they do a great job. They're also expensive. How much do we want to charge our people to come and play?
Doug Couchman, District 21. For a while, I was a tournament director. Before that, I was a tournament assistant at TA, and I don't think I would have become as involved in the ACBL had I not been able to be a TA. I oppose the motion.
All right, anyone else? Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your green paddles. All those opposed? Motion fails. Okay, I've had 2 requests from people to speak briefly, plus David Rodney, Steve, I guess I've had 3, Jay Apfelbaum and Steve all appear to wish to speak. We're already at 11:32. I would ask you to limit yourselves to, well, first of all, are there any other motions to be made? If no, well, okay, yes, you have a motion.
New business. I'll be brief because we've discussed this a lot. I move that we request that the Board of Directors extend its prospective lifetime ban on those convicted of collusive premeditated cheating in NABC Plus events to those convicted of collusive premeditated cheating in all ACBL events.
Second. Okay, quick discussion on this.
1 2 second session. I'm Kevin Wilson again. I've been a member of the Ethical Oversight Committee, and this sounds great to me, and I totally, in theory, support it. But look, we had a case of 2 teenagers come before the body. They made some mistakes, and so sort of this idea of banning somebody for life, like I used to agree with it, but after some perspective, I think that maybe just the NABC level events are enough.
Further discussion on this item. What we are, it's questionable actually whether this board can do this because at this meeting, because this, you're basically repeating a motion that was already made by this board in Hawaii. The motion was modified and passed. I can assure you it would not have passed in the proposed changed form. I don't think we're allowed to bring the same matter to the board on 2 consecutive meetings. We'll take a vote on this, but you know, it may be out of order. All those in favor of expanding the motion to all events? All opposed, please. Well, the motion carries, but as I say, it may be out of order. The Board of Directors may not put it on the agenda because it was just considered. Okay, Jay, very quickly, then we'll take the others very quickly, please.
Yeah, the Jay Applebaum again, District 4, Philadelphia. We have, and I'm not going to try to tell you my numbers are right, but they're close. We have in the order of 150,000 or so members. Of those, less than a third ever touch or think about touching a tournament. The rest, most play at homes. They may play social bridge, maybe they'll play in a club. The bulletin is not written for those people. They are only connection these people have with ACBL is through the ACBL bulletin. We need to change the focus of the bulletin because our terrible retention rate has to be improved. I'm not going to take credit for it. I just had a little fun hand about 18 years ago I wrote up called The Heroic Heart. I spoke to Jay Whipple about it. Maybe he'll be tempted to look it up, I don't know. But the point is, you can write an entertaining story about bridge, where you're reading the story, and yes, bridge plays a role in it. And I think this is a better way to reach out to those people who will never see this room, who may or may not see a club game, but who may come to believe what we want them to know, that although it's a competition, it's fun. So I asked the Board of Governors to take that thought. I asked the Board of Directors to take that thought. And I asked management to take that thought and possibly consider a revision in the way the Bridge Bulletin is written. Thank you for your time.
Steve, you want to do your quick report, and then David Rodney has a report as well.
Steve Mose, I'm here to report on the activities of the Clubs and Teachers Committee for the Board of Governors. I'm going to address points very quickly, then I'm going to hand the mic to Steve Gaynor, who has something he wants to share. First of all, we've noticed that team games appear to be declining at the club level, largely because newer players are not comfortable playing in team games. There are some steps we can all take. Pro-Am or 8 is enough team games have become very popular in a number of venues. You can even use 8 is enough as a structure for a 2-session Swiss at a regional that will award gold points to novices. Think about what that might mean for the off times at your regional. And the other thing that we're doing is mini Soloway knockouts are beginning to attract some of the less experienced players because they know they get to play Swiss for a whole day, and if they don't make it into the knockout the next day, they have other events they can play. Recruiting players to bridge, energize your members. We'd like to hear from everybody in this room about what works and what works best because we want to share the good news. Finally, social bridge is contributing to rent. Think about bringing people who aren't prepared to play duplicate yet but want to play bridge to your club so they can play, have fun, enjoy some free coffee, maybe some snacks, but get them into your environment and get them known and get them beginning the socialization process. And as far as teachers go, we need to have an onboarding process for teachers. So if we start out with the best practices teacher workshop, there needs to be a venue for area clubs to provide opportunities for these newly certified teachers, an apprenticeship period, being able to practice so that you can establish your practice as a teacher. Thank you. Steve?
And yeah, we'll listen to Steve in a second, but I want to thank Steve Mose for all his hard work on the club committee and continuing contributions and good ideas.
Hi, Steve Gaynor, District 14, Minnesota. And I've talked to the ACBL and this body about the special event program, and I have communicated with the ACBL, and I appreciate the professional and courteous responses I've received from those folks there. But I still feel there's a lot of work to do. A lot of clubs are disenfranchised from running those special events when they'd like to, and I think the whole thing needs to be revised. And we either plan to put a motion in force for Las Vegas or talk more with the ACBL about how we can get more people involved. And if clubs are posting results prematurely, maybe they need to be sanctioned or eliminated from the event. And the honest clubs that want to run these things and will delay posting results should be allowed to. And to go back to the afternoon and morning program like we have has cost a lot of tables and been sort of upsetting. So that's what I want to talk about. The special event program just needs some work, and I'm happy to help with it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have David next, but I don't want to forget to thank Mark Hudson and Kelly Trejo for all their work in putting this meeting together so it's running very smoothly. So thank you very much. Now we're going to hear from David Rodney about something he's been helping with.
Hello. So I've been helping provide a data analysis committee in the last several months. I've been doing it on and off now for the past couple of years to the board of directors. There's the background of this is that there's a great many issues and questions where people say, I don't really quite know exactly what's going on. Like there were comments here, we don't know how many members are overseas, and some, I mean, you hear that all the time. The purpose of this is twofold. It's to provide data for people so they know this and have it readily available, and also be able to analyze it and address questions. So I've been working with the staff in Horn Lake to try and help them on the initiatives that Joe Jones spoke about earlier this morning. And I've also been providing some support to the board of directors on looking at demographics about aging and retention and trends, and also what's been happening in regional attendance, who's attending, how many master points they have, how far people are traveling to attend regionals, and so on. I'm going to post all of this when we get back after the Nationals on the Board of Governors blog for everyone to look at. I certainly welcome all your comments, and there's a whole host of issues to look at. If anyone wants to help work and help support the analysis, then just please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm going to make another housekeeping announcement, and this is about housekeeping. I see that the setup staff is anxiously waiting to do their jobs. Please help them by cleaning up before you leave. And Linda, very quickly, because we need to close this meeting.
Very quickly, Richard, I just want to remind everybody in here that we have a private Board of Governors discussion forum on the Bridge Winners website. There's 88 people in it, and things don't get viral like they do on regular Bridge Winners. If you're not seeing Board of Governors when you log into Bridge Winners, email me at ljtrent1@gmail.com and I'll add you. Thank you.
Yes, and we do encourage all of you, if you're not in that blog, to email Linda so that if you have a Bridge Winners account, so you have access to it. Sandy.
I would like to move and second that all members who have achieved Life Master status be designated as Life Master. And I would also like to ask the Board of Governors to extend their sincere thanks and appreciation to District 10, District Director Russ Jones, and Tournament Chair Bob Williams. We would also like to thank the Sheraton Memphis downtown for all its fine cooperation and service. Now, I tell you all, one of the things, I can't believe everybody actually stays until we accept our new Life Masters. So you are all wonderful, wonderful people and great bridge players. And what I'd like you to do is to go forward, smile often, and remember, every single day is Goodwill Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This meeting is concluded. Thank you all for your attendance. Yes. Yes. If you want to suggest edits to it.